As many of you are hopefully seeing now, the degree and extension of the domestic terror attacks continuing to be perpetrated upon the people, United States and most nations of the Western world, among others, via the very dark and consummate evil of a certain tribal group, will ascribe the title of the accountants. In keeping up with the pace of this ongoing psychological terrorism operation, I am updating and revising this latest tutorial to meet it and provide other possible approaches and solutions to deal with it. I'm Kathleen Dudley, a holistic reflexologist. Again, hello, and welcome to all of you. It appears that every new day brings a new version of contradictory goalpost shifting, apparently designed to frighten, disorient, and subsume the unthinking and uncritical minions into ever deeper subservience through offers to compel, to comply, that appear as force of threat, violence, and fear. This is an extremely deviant, and I might add, an even genius evil that is at work. And as Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, quote, "One must know his enemy in order to defeat him," unquote, or them or it, if you like. As many of you are likely becoming more aware, naming our collective enemy is to invoke censorship, doxing, threats of violence, physical and or financial, and even death. Though it is a well-known fact that one may not criticize the one that controls you, many people forget this. Do your due diligence and discover who the accountants really are, regardless of how uncomfortable this may be to you, and what incalculable damage they wrought on our beautiful home for the last few thousand years. Many alternative video sharing and alternative websites seem to have burgeoned like spring flowers over the last 19 months, touting ever greater heights of fear, the boogeyman illness, and the stunningly insane measures being imposed on most of us to use by consent of the governed, of course, by government or other agencies such as health, school boards, policy enforcers, namely the police, governors, and private allopathic drug pushers. Methods such as face coverings to effectively reduce one's ability to breathe and thus excrete toxins and cleanse, detox. Agree to a test that tests for nothing and agree to accepting what appears to be an extremely toxic and dangerous sludge, currently touted as an injection to protect everyone from everything under the sun. This is, of course, claimed to be safe and effective, but the question needs to be asked. Safe and effective to do what? Safely and effectively conduct genocide, perhaps? A worldwide fear-based mental breakdown? A divide and conquer scheme delivered by proxy for the dissolution of the white race as well as others? Nothing new here, perhaps. The 1920s Kalergi plan en masse today? A massive social destruction plan to eliminate all of us deemed as chattel by that illustrious chosen few, the accountants? All of this seems to be in progress, and we very much are required by our own mandate to be responsible and actively stand against this. We absolutely must do this. We are at war. War has been declared, and it must be met. To be silent, to be subservient, to acquiesce is to lose. And we cannot lose this battle, not for our children's sake. As you know, I write exemption letters for those whose employers think they can demand them, for people being denied public accommodation access by private businesses, which is unlawful and illegal, to not wear a dangerous face covering, take a test or receive an experimental substance into their bodies by a private company posing as governmental agency. Wow. A substance whose ingredients are not made public and whose effects are known, of course, to those entities that created them, but we are not allowed to know. And all this by for-profit companies being paid by none other than us. An important addition to this is to understand that the United States is a corporation and has been for a very long time and working above the law. The CDC, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, all private corporations, not government agencies. It is time for us to learn facts. A friend of mine, when learning that people he knew in the offshore ocean voyaging community were contemplating choosing the needle, asked them, quote, "But you have no idea what's in this stuff. If I came up to you and told you that you had to put this unknown, untested, mandatory by a private company substance into your $20,000 excuse me, marine diesel engine, what would you do?" He was told a number of things he could do with this substance. You can only imagine. He then asked, "Well, why then would you agree to put the same in your own body?" Everyone needs to be asking this question, don't you think? These exemption letters are, however, only a first step. The rest is going to evolve over time as to how they are implemented with the ever-changing rules, statements, edicts, and narratives that persist today. It's like a worldwide game of whack-a-mole they are playing. When we, the people, stand against their schemes and make progress in beating them down, they create yet another array of contradictions, absurdities, and rules, which again, we must meet, thereby starting the whole process over again. This is, of course, extremely wearisome, as it is intended to be. They want us to be weary, distracted, demoralized, and exhausted. Just like a new age religious group or other types of cult leaders demand of their constituents. So resistance to their tyranny is effectively nullified. Have a look at Bitterman's chart of coercion. You'll find that it reads like a playbook of the machinations of the current manipulator's game. I will put a link in the body of this tutorial please look for it. So what is the remedy, or what are the remedies? First, it is to regain the knowledge of whom you are and what you are not. You are not a name or a number. You are not the corporate fiction they want you to believe you to be. You are not the mind-numbed, subservient fools they are forcing you to think you've become. No, you are a divinely created living man or woman with absolutely clearly given inalienable and unalienable birthrights that no other entity can take away. That is, unless you give it away to them. This is devastatingly important, as it is the linchpin their scheme hinges upon, and your ignorance of this keeps it intact. This has to stop. We must become educated. We must become empowered. Secondly, it is critical to understand that here in the United States, we have what is known as the Constitution of the United States. And there are other countries, Ireland for one, Canada for another, many other countries with very fine constitutions that are the supreme law of the land. This document in the United States states the unalienable and inalienable rights conferred upon us at our being born, at our first breath, our baby's first breath, every one of our first breaths. Our birthrights cannot be ever taken away unless, once again, we give them away through our silence, through our subsistence, through our subservience, through our ignorance. They, the accountants, want us ignorant. They want us to not understand our power, our rights. Please don't agree to this. You have everything to live for, particularly your children, in bringing about their freedoms, their rights. It is incumbent upon us to do just that. Exemption letters are important in the process to claim and act upon these rights, but they have to be used with intelligence and understanding. It's like having a deep and abiding working basis for using a compass, a clock, and chart to navigate at sea before using all the electronic and vastly simplified little to-do work navigation equipment now available in the consumer market. You must know deeply the why and how of the exemption letter so that it can be used effectively, and then have a deep working knowledge of the Constitution to back it up. Your rights are only good if you claim them. It is time that we step into our power. In listening to a number of alternative video sharing sites, it seems to me that they conduct more and more fear and arrive at nothing to stop it. Could many of these sites be controlled opposition? I think so. Have you noticed that, at least to my knowledge, no law enforcement agency has arrested anyone responsible for perpetrating this mass terror attack? The police, or policy enforcement, are working for a private corporation masking as peacekeepers, but they aren't. They are here to generate revenue for their employers, the banks, the municipal or city politicians, the pharmaceutical thugs, the courts. If you think that they are here to protect you, you'd be wrong. This is why I come now to the third remedy: how to work with the law enforcement officers by keeping them to the oaths they took when they became police officers or judges or any elected official. Remember, these people are only acting, and underline the word acting, in capacity, and have no jurisdiction over anyone unless a crime has been committed. Not agreeing to wearing a mask, take a test, or a needle stick is not breaking the law. Therefore, they have no jurisdiction over us. It is between you and your Creator. No man has authority over us. It is important to know this. Once again, not agreeing to wear a mask, take a needle or a needle stick is not breaking the law. But these agencies are up to their usual tricks in making it appear that their mandates are required by law when they are actually only a recommendation or a guideline. Read carefully the wording. It's like the yellow warning sign of curves ahead. The yellow sign is advisory. You can go at whatever speed you wish whilst negotiating the curves. It is the same with these guideline edicts. This is why there is always in the fine print a get out of jail free card, in that there is always an exemption clause in the edicts. It is there because it gets them out of the liability of mandating something that is not lawful. They are telling you that you can claim an exemption, but it is up to you whether you exercise this or not. You must do the digging. You must act. You have to work for this. It is your responsibility, no matter how tired, worn out, overwhelmed, or disgusted you may feel, to bring this out. When it comes to so-called school boards requiring your children to fight, to be able to exercise their birthright, given requirement to breathe and not wear any face covering, it is crucially important to understand that schools are not in any way an environment in which to incarcerate your children. These places have become, over the last years, nothing more than Marxist indoctrination centers, bent on absolutely destroying your children's minds and health and teaching them nothing but compliance and complacence. It is up to you parents to protect at all costs your children's health, well-being, and their very lives. Currently, in the county of San Diego, California, the degree of pushback by parents is remarkable, and the results have been extremely encouraging. This is because the parents have stood up in solidarity and mutual support. I hear back from parents who have engaged me in writing exemption letters for their children. And it puts a smile and a very warm feeling in my heart to know that the parents have stood that strongly and that the children are able to attend school without these breath oxygen diminishing muzzles on their faces. But can you imagine what this would look like if it happened in every school district in the entire country, around the world? It would be staggeringly effective. As an aside, one thing to do, in my opinion, to bring about a halt to this whole thing would be to throw away your cell phones. I know you want to keep track of your kids. You want to know the time. It's got a camera. It's logged all of your appointments. It has all your entertainment on it. You get your phone calls. You can text. But my gosh, these are convenience devices designed to lull everyone that uses them into a complacency with little awareness of the reality that they are weapons and are being utilized for your own enslavement and your children's. The addiction, the health damaging impacts, but the freedom taking is the most egregious. We become slaves to these. These weapons are being utilized for your own enslavement. That's a powerful statement. Why do you think they are referred to as cell phones? Those that use these things are carrying their own prison around with them. I urge you, dig down into the hidden terms of use and read the disclaimers printed there. They're real and they're concerning. It should make you want to throw these things as far away from you as possible. And of course, from your children, who are even more vulnerable. I can and will write exemption letters for parents of school children, of course. But you must understand that the schooling system has been so deeply and insidiously corrupted that you may want to really think about sending your children to these places. There are many resources available for parents and children to form homeschooling groups, and this may be something you will want to seriously look to. Your child's life depends upon it. Similarly, for those in the healthcare industry, there are beginning to form independent alternative healthcare providers that are really promoting real healthcare based on non-toxic modalities as opposed to the illness and death factories healthcare has currently become through the allopathic system. You've all likely been aware of the latest goings on with the pilots and crew of Southwest Airlines and the injection requirement being foisted upon them by their management. Somehow, the weather affected only Southwest aircrafts and routes. Kind of selective weather, don't you think? But this non-existing executive order by the president can't be found. But there is compliance and pressure. Let's watch and see how this unfolds. Also investigate the many police and firefighters that are standing against the tyranny. These men and women were once considered heroes and saviors, but now they're vilified as injection hesitant, unthinking, selfish morons. To know your history helps, because this is how the Bolsheviks were able to murder so many millions of people prior to World War II. They got people to work for them, and after their usefulness was exhausted, they too were murdered. Learn the real history of what went on in these last couple hundred years, rather than the silly and incomprehensible stupid stories incessantly pounded into our minds and psyches. All that we have been taught is a lie. It is time for us now to dig and learn the truth. What I am saying here is the world we've been living in is being systematically dismantled right under us by beings that are appearing less and less human as the days tick by. If we don't use our creator-driven brains, wits, integrity, ethics, and morals, we stand to not only lose our lives, but those of the whole of all we've ever been in this earth. And very importantly, I ask, where are our warriors? There are many, many resources available for further investigations into this, but the time is now to begin it. We must not wait for some savior to bail us out of our woes. Our ancestors knew this. And if you care to research the lives of your own families, you'll see this. How do you think we came and are here today? They weren't fighting then so we could rest on our laurels now. We must stand to this without fear. In fact, I feel we must stand in this with love and joy for those in our care, human and non-human beings behind us, and bring all the hate required to fight those entities that stand in our way and seek to destroy us. Because this is a war of evil against good. So in summary, standing against tyranny, terrorism, and threat in all forms, and vanquishing it should be a major focal point in every adult's reason for living now. Our children, homes, animals, and very existence depends on how we live now and how we act. How we stand up for whom and what we love will give the life they were given to live. This must happen. This must happen now. Thank you very much for your time. Please use deep discernment, logic, creativity, and investigate, research, dig, and most of all, think for yourselves. Work together and overcome this once and for all. Be well. Blessings. Kathleen Dudley. I'll bring another installment to you in the next few weeks. Thank you.